There are a lot of conversations about what men respect in women: beauty, charm, success, but here's the truth: respect goes deeper than surface. Real respect comes from how you carry yourself, the rules you live by, and the way you set the tone for how people treat you. Today, I want to share 4 powerful rules that make men pause, pay attention, and show deep respect. When we talk about respect, the first thing that always comes up is boundaries, because without them, it doesn't matter how confident you are, how accomplished you are, or how charming you are. People won't know where the line is, and when there's no line, they'll cross it. Boundaries aren't walls to keep people out. They're guidelines to show people how to treat you. And the moment you draw that line, men notice. They may not say it out loud, but they feel it, because boundaries tell the world, I value myself enough to protect my energy, my time, and my peace. And that's something men deeply respect, even if they don't admit it. Think about it this way: when you walk into someone's home, you naturally respect the rules. If they say, shoes off, you take your shoes off. If they say, no smoking inside, you don't light a cigarette. You may not agree with their rules, but you follow them because it's their space. That's how boundaries work in relationships too. A woman who sets boundaries is essentially saying, this is my space. This is how I expect to be treated. And the men who respect her will follow those rules without question. The men who don't will remove themselves, and that's a good thing. Now, what makes boundaries powerful is that they're not about controlling other people. They're about controlling yourself. You can't stop someone from being disrespectful, but you can decide that you won't entertain it. You can't force a man to treat you right, but you can remove yourself when he doesn't. That's what real strength looks like. And men see that. They might push it first, because some people test boundaries to see how solid they are. But when they realize you stand firm, they respect it. Because deep down, everyone knows a person who respects themselves is a person worth respecting. The challenge is that a lot of women are scared to set boundaries because they don't want to seem mean or difficult. But here's the truth: being clear doesn't make you mean, it makes you confident. Men actually prefer knowing where the line is. It removes the guessing game. If you allow disrespect once, they'll assume it's acceptable. If you draw the line early, they adjust their behavior. It's not about nagging, it's not about controlling, it's simply about being consistent with your standards. And boundaries don't just apply to big issues like cheating or lying. They show up in the little things. The way a man speaks to you in public, the tone he uses in an argument, how he treats your time when he says he'll call. Each moment is an opportunity to reinforce or ignore your boundaries. And the truth is, the respect men have for you grows every time you hold that line. It doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It's as simple as calmly saying, that doesn't work for me, and sticking to it. Because when a woman refuses to compromise her dignity for attention, when she chooses self, respect over approval, men take notice. Consistency is one of the rarest qualities you'll find in people today, and that's exactly why it stands out so much. Anyone can act respectful for a day, anyone can put on a mask for a few weeks, but consistency shows what you're really made of. When your actions match your words, when the way you treat people stays steady no matter the situation, it creates trust. And trust is the foundation of respect. Men pay close attention to how consistent a woman is. Not just in what she says, but in what she does. Because anyone can talk about values, but not everyone has the discipline to live by them when it's inconvenient. When a woman is consistent, she's reliable. She doesn't say one thing and do another. She doesn't shift her standards depending on who's watching. She doesn't treat people well only when it benefits her. She stays grounded in who she is, and that steadiness, that reliability is what makes men respect her on a deeper level. Because men know that if she's consistent with herself, she's going to be consistent in her relationships, in her commitments, and in the way she handles conflict. It's not about being perfect. It's about being steady enough that people know what to expect from you. Think about how powerful it is when someone's actions line up with their words. It's rare. We live in a world where people post about values they don't practice, where they promise things they never follow through on, where they change their opinions based on who they're trying to impress. So when a woman shows consistency, it's refreshing. It's almost shocking, and it immediately earns respect. Because men don't want to guess which version of you they're going to get today. They want to know that the same woman who said, I value respect, yesterday is the same woman holding that line today, even if it's inconvenient, even if it costs her something, even if it means walking away from a situation that doesn't align. Consistency also builds a sense of safety. When you know someone is consistent, you can trust their reactions. You can trust that they won't lose their cool out of nowhere. You can trust that their kindness isn't fake. You can trust that their boundaries aren't just for show. And men respect that safety because it makes them feel like they're dealing with someone solid, someone they can't easily shake, someone who's not playing games. And deep down, everyone respects people who don't play games with themselves. And here's the thing about consistency: it doesn't just mean being steady when life is calm. It shows up the most when life gets messy. When emotions run high, when temptation shows up, when disappointment hits, that's when people reveal if they're truly consistent. A woman who keeps her values steady in the storm is unforgettable. She doesn't just talk about self-respect, she lives it. She doesn't just claim honesty, she practices it even when it's hard. And that kind of steadiness can't be faked. It's built through discipline, through choices, through knowing who you are and refusing to betray that. And men notice it more than you think. Confidence is one of those qualities that you can't fake for long, and you don't need to announce it for people to feel it. True confidence isn't loud, it doesn't beg for it, and it doesn't try to prove its worth in every room. It's subtle, it's steady, and it shows up in the way someone carries themselves. Men deeply respect women who have that quiet confidence because it signals strength without needing to dominate and humility without needing to shrink. It's not arrogance, it's not entitlement, it's not walking around with the idea that the world owes you something. It's the inner knowing that you belong, that you're valuable, and that you don't need external approval to confirm that. Arrogance pushes people away. It tries to create respect through intimidation or superiority. But confidence attracts because it's not built on comparison. A confident woman doesn't need to belittle others to feel secure. She doesn't have to prove she's the smartest person in the room or the most beautiful one. Her presence speaks for itself, not because she's trying to be seen, but because she's comfortable being herself. That comfort is magnetic. Men recognize it immediately because it creates a sense of ease. They don't feel like they're being challenged to compete with her. They feel like they're in the presence of someone who knows who she is and doesn't need validation every 5 minutes. Confidence also shows up in decisions. A confident woman doesn't hesitate to say what she wants or what she doesn't want. She doesn't dance around her standards. She doesn't apologize for having opinions. She's not aggressive, but she's clear. That clarity is powerful because men respect directness. They don't have to guess where they stand with her. They don't have to decode mixed signals. She communicates with assurance, and that level of honesty is refreshing. And what really separates confidence from arrogance is the lack of insecurity driving it. Arrogance is fueled by insecurity. It needs to prove itself. Confidence, on the other hand, is fueled by self-respect. It's grounded, it's calm, it's steady. When a woman walks into a room with that kind of presence, she doesn't need to raise her voice or demand recognition. People just feel it. Men in particular respect it because it shows emotional maturity. It shows that she isn't relying on external attention to define her worth. She already knows her value, and that makes her stand out in a world where so many people are chasing constant approval. Another thing about confidence is that it allows grace. A confident woman can compliment others without feeling smaller. She can listen without feeling threatened. She can admit when she's wrong without crumbling because her worth isn't tied to being perfect. And men respect that balance more than they respect loud displays of ego, because deep down they know real strength doesn't need to shout. It's felt in the way someone shows up consistently, in the way they treat others with dignity, and in the way they carry themselves without needing to prove a point. Emotional composure is one of the strongest signals of inner strength, and it's something men notice right away. Anyone can be calm when everything is going well, but the real test comes when life throws challenges, when tempers rise, when situations don't go as planned. A woman who can control her emotions instead of letting her emotions control her stands out in a world where so many people react without thinking. Men deeply respect that kind of composure because it shows maturity, discipline, and self-awareness. It says you're not someone who gets dragged into unnecessary drama. You're not someone who reacts to every little thing. And you're not someone who loses yourself in the heat of the moment. There's a big difference between feeling emotions and being ruled by them. Emotional composure doesn't mean you never get angry, never feel hurt, or never feel frustrated. It means you choose how you respond instead of letting the situation choose for you. It's the pause before the reaction, the deep breath before the words, the ability to think about the outcome instead of just exploding in the moment. Men see that and respect it because it takes real strength to hold steady when everything in you wants to lash out. It's easy to raise your voice, it's easy to slam the door, it's easy to send the angry text, but it's powerful to stay calm and deliberate because that shows you're in control of yourself. Emotional composure also communicates confidence. A woman who doesn't let herself get dragged into gossip, arguments, or chaos communicates that she knows her value is above that. She doesn't need to prove herself by winning every argument. She doesn't need to raise her voice to be heard. She doesn't need to get the last word. Her calmness speaks louder than any outburst could, and men respect it because it's rare. Most people think volume equals strength, but in reality, restraint is strength. Composure is strength. Choosing peace when you could choose chaos is strength. Men also notice how composure creates stability. A woman who handles her emotions with grace becomes someone they can trust. If she's calm when things go wrong, if she doesn't panic at the first sign of trouble, if she doesn't spiral when plans fall apart, it creates a sense of safety. It shows that she's steady, that she's reliable, and that she can navigate challenges without falling apart. That steadiness is respected because it shows she's not controlled by external circumstances. She's grounded enough in herself to handle pressure without making everything worse. And it's not about bottling things up or pretending feelings don't exist. Emotional composure is about choosing when and how to express those feelings in a way that moves things forward instead of tearing them down. It's about staying in control of your tone, your body language, your words. It's about showing that you can feel deeply without letting those feelings drive reckless actions. Men deeply respect women who can master this balance because it shows wisdom, patience, and emotional intelligence that goes far beyond surface-level strength. Direct but kind communication is one of the most underrated qualities, yet it's one of the most powerful ways a woman earns respect. Men pay close attention to how you express yourself. Some people think being direct means being harsh or cold, while being kind means softening the truth until it's barely recognizable. But the real strength comes from finding the balance between honesty and compassion. When you can say what you mean without sugarcoating and still deliver it in a way that shows care, it leaves a lasting impression. Men respect women who don't dance around their thoughts, who don't rely on passive hints, and who don't expect others to read their minds. Instead, they appreciate the clarity of someone who speaks openly and does it with respect. Communication is where so many relationships break down because most people either say too little or say too much the wrong way. Some avoid hard conversations completely because they don't want conflict, but what that really creates is confusion and resentment. Others come in swinging with sharp words, thinking that aggression equals strength, but all it does is build walls. Direct but kind communication avoids both extremes. It cuts through the guessing game while still preserving dignity. A woman who can look someone in the eye and say, "This is how I feel and this is what I need," without raising her voice, without tearing someone down, shows a level of maturity that men notice immediately. It takes courage to be clear, because clarity leaves no room to hide. It means you're willing to be honest about what you want and what you don't. And that honesty can feel uncomfortable, but it also builds respect. Men respect a woman who can be upfront because it removes the games and the confusion. It doesn't leave them wondering what she really means or what she's holding back. They don't have to decode silence or guess what's wrong. They hear the truth directly and they can trust it. That kind of communication builds not only respect, but also reliability because they know you'll say what needs to be said instead of bottling it up or exploding later. Kindness is what makes that honesty digestible because being direct without kindness can come across as cold or cruel. But when your words are rooted in respect, when your tone stays calm, when your intention is to build rather than break, it changes everything. A man may not like what he hears in the moment, but he'll respect the way it's said. He'll remember that you didn't cut him down, you didn't embarrass him, you didn't use your words as weapons. You simply spoke your truth with clarity and grace. That combination is powerful because it shows not only strength, but also self-control. Men respect women who communicate this way because it shows confidence without hostility. It shows that you value yourself enough to speak up, but also value others enough to speak with care. It shows emotional intelligence because you're not just focused on being heard, you're focused on being understood. And when a woman communicates directly and kindly, she stands apart in a world full of mixed signals and unspoken frustrations. Respect always begins with the way you treat yourself. If you don't respect yourself, it's unrealistic to expect anyone else to consistently do it for you. Men notice this faster than most people realize. A woman who honors her own boundaries, who protects her energy, who speaks to herself with dignity and carries herself with self-worth sets the standard for how she expects to be treated. Respect for self first is the foundation of all other forms of respect, because the way you allow others to interact with you is often just a reflection of what you believe you deserve. If you accept disrespect from yourself, whether that's through negative self-talk, tolerating situations that don't align with your values, or putting yourself last all the time, others will follow that lead. But when you show by your actions that you value who you are, men pay attention and they treat you accordingly. There is something magnetic about a woman who refuses to compromise her dignity for approval. She doesn't chase attention just to feel validated. She doesn't cling to people who don't treat her right. She doesn't lower her standards because she's afraid of being alone. Instead, she respects herself enough to walk away from what doesn't serve her. That strength doesn't come from arrogance. It comes from a deep understanding of self-worth. And men deeply respect that because it shows she's not desperate for their acceptance. She's already whole without it. That independence, that self-assurance, communicates that her value isn't up for debate. Respecting yourself first also shows up in the way you take care of yourself, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. Men notice when a woman has her own life, her own passions, her own goals. When she's not waiting for someone else to give her purpose, but instead builds her life in alignment with her own vision. That kind of self-respect radiates without needing to be announced. It shows up in how she spends her time, who she surrounds herself with, and the standards she refuses to compromise. Men respect it because it tells them she's not settling, and if they want a place in her life, they have to come correct. When you respect yourself first, you also communicate with others differently. You don't explain your worth. You don't beg for basic decency. You don't chase after people who walk away. You move with calm certainty because you know what you deserve, and you don't feel the need to argue about it. That quiet assurance is powerful. Men recognize that they can't manipulate or test someone who's rooted in self-respect because she won't play those games. She's not afraid to stand alone rather than stand in something that diminishes her. At the end of the day, respect for self first is about showing that you take yourself seriously. And when a woman takes herself seriously, when she sets the tone for her own life, when she honors her worth without apology, men respond with respect because they know they're dealing with someone who refuses to compromise who she is just to be accepted. Grace under pressure is one of the rarest and most respected qualities a woman can have because it reveals character in a way that nothing else can. Anyone can carry themselves with elegance and composure when life is easy, when the circumstances are favorable, when everything is going according to plan. But it's when the pressure mounts, when situations turn unfair, when emotions rise and the unexpected hits, that true grace shows itself. Men pay very close attention to how a woman reacts in those moments, because those reactions show more about her strength than anything she says about herself. Grace under pressure isn't about pretending nothing is wrong. It's about handling what's wrong without letting it strip away your dignity. It's the ability to stay steady while the storm rages, to respond instead of react, and to carry yourself with calm authority instead of being swept away by the chaos. Grace under pressure communicates self-control. It shows that even when everything inside of you wants to lash out, you can take a step back and choose a response that protects your integrity. Men respect that because it demonstrates a level of discipline that not everyone has. Most people think strength is about fighting louder or pushing harder, but true strength is often revealed in the choice to stay calm, the choice to stay composed, the choice to not let external circumstances dictate your behavior. That restraint is not weakness, it's mastery of self, and men recognize mastery when they see it. There's also a level of resilience that comes with grace under pressure. A woman who can maintain her composure in difficult times shows that she's not easily broken. She might bend, but she doesn't shatter. She might feel the weight of what's happening, but she refuses to let it define her. That resilience is deeply respected because it communicates reliability. If she can hold herself steady under stress, then she can be trusted to navigate life's challenges without collapsing into chaos. Men notice that kind of steadiness and admire it because it creates confidence that she won't make things worse when the pressure is on. Grace under pressure also reflects emotional intelligence. It shows that you understand the impact of your reactions, not just on yourself, but on the people around you. When you keep your composure, you bring calm to the situation instead of feeding into the fire. Men see that as leadership because it takes wisdom to stay measured when the easy thing would be to explode. It's not about suppressing emotions. It's about expressing them in a way that maintains control and moves things forward rather than backward. That level of maturity stands out immediately because it shows you know how to carry weight without passing it on carelessly. What makes grace under pressure so powerful is that it doesn't just show strength, it shows depth. It reveals that your confidence and calm aren't just surface traits that crumble when tested, but qualities that are woven into who you are. And when a woman proves she can hold herself with grace when everything around her is testing her patience, her faith, and her resilience, men respect her not just for how she handles herself, but for the rare strength it takes to remain grounded when the world gives you every reason to lose control. Choosing standards over approval is one of the clearest signs of self-respect, and it's one of the most consistent ways to earn lasting respect from men. Because the truth is, people can sense very quickly whether you live by your principles or whether you bend them just to be liked. Approval is fleeting, it's conditional. It's based on moods, on circumstances, on the opinions of others that change from one moment to the next. But standards are steady. They don't move just because someone doesn't like them. They don't disappear just because you're afraid of disappointing someone. A woman who chooses standards over approval communicates that she values her integrity more than being popular, and men respect that because it's rare. Most people chase being liked, but very few are willing to lose approval in order to keep their dignity. There's something powerful about a woman who is unshakable in what she stands for. Not stubborn in the sense of refusing to listen, but grounded in the sense that she knows what she will and won't accept. That strength might make some people uncomfortable, but it also earns admiration. Men notice when you refuse to compromise your values just to avoid conflict. They notice when you're willing to walk away rather than settle for less than you deserve. They notice when you don't let someone's opinion of you dictate your choices. And whether they admit it or not, they respect it deeply. Approval seeking creates weakness because it gives your power away. If you need everyone to like you, You'll bend yourself into a shape that pleases them, even when it doesn't align with who you are. You'll end up saying yes when you should say no, tolerating what you shouldn't tolerate, and accepting treatment that chips away at your self-worth. And the more you do that, the less respect people have for you. Because if you don't respect your own standards, why should they? Men in particular pay attention to this. They may test boundaries, they may push limits, but when they see that you hold firm to your standards regardless of how it affects their approval, they realize they're dealing with someone who cannot be swayed by charm, pressure, or flattery. Living by standards doesn't mean you're cold or rigid, it means you're clear. It means you know what kind of behavior is acceptable and what isn't. It means you don't measure yourself by how many people approve of you, but by how true you remain to yourself. That consistency builds trust. Because men can rely on the fact that your word has weight, that your choices are not based on impulse, and that your respect for yourself isn't negotiable. They may not always like it, but they respect it, and respect is far more valuable than fleeting approval. A woman who chooses standards over approval teaches people how to treat her without ever having to raise her voice. She shows through her actions that her dignity isn't for sale, that her values are not up for negotiation, and that she is willing to risk being disliked rather than betray herself. Men see that, and it sets her apart instantly, because in a world where so many chase likes, she chooses respect. Respect isn't something you demand, it's something you create by the way you live. Men don't just respect women because of titles, beauty, or charm. They respect women who set the tone with boundaries, who stay consistent with their values, who show confidence without arrogance, and who remain composed no matter the situation. They respect women who speak directly but with kindness, who honor themselves first, who carry grace under pressure, and who choose their standards over approval every single time. These aren't just rules, they're habits, they're mindsets, they're ways of living that make you stand out without ever having to force it. When you embody them, you don't have to chase respect, it naturally finds you.